I'm in my hotel room in Taipei right now, and I'm super excited to tell you about my flight from Boston to Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific first class. I used American Airline miles to book the flight. I've used American Airlines first class from JFK to Narita, Japan before, but this Cathay Pacific first class flight was really a class of its own. Once I was at the airport, I proceeded to the first class line. There wasn't much of a line, so I got through the check-in process fairly quickly and went to the lounge. The first class lounge is shared by Cathay Pacific, British Airways, and maybe a few other airlines. The snack bar had a decent selection of snacks, and I chose a curry sandwich, a cookie, and a biscotti. For a drink, I had some Sam Adams Oktoberfest, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to have Sam Adams for a while since I'm going to be in Asia for an extended period of time. So it was nice that I could have a last taste of Boston. As I got on the plane, the flight attendant took a look at my ticket and saw that I was in seat 1A. So she brought me right to my seat, which was nice that I didn't have to find the seat on my own. I noticed that there was someone in seat 2A, which was right behind me, and so I started talking to him. The flight attendant noticed this and suggested that I sit in his guest seat. Since I didn't know him that well, I was apprehensive about doing this, but he said it was okay. So we both could enjoy our pre-flight drinks together and the pre-flight snacks. The pre-flight drink was some Krug champagne, and the pre-flight snack was some foie gras. I've had champagne on a flight before, but it's never been Krug. The combination of the savory foie gras went really nicely with the sweet flavor of the champagne. As I settled into my seat, I noticed some of the amenities that were provided. There was a pillow behind my head, which was fixed to the seat, and that made the seat a lot more comfortable. There was an amenity kit that had things like toothbrushes, toothpaste, lotion, things that you'll need for the flight. The flower above the window was a really nice touch because I've never really seen a fresh flower on a flight. There's also a lot of counter space right next to the window. I chose to use this counter space to put some cards and photos that my friends had given me before I left. Since I'm going to be in Asia for an extended period of time, it was nice to be able to have a reminder of Boston as I was leaving on my adventure. Next, I'm going to talk about the food on the flight. I chose to have my meal right after takeoff and before I went to sleep because I thought this would be the best way to adjust to the time difference between America and Hong Kong. The next course was caviar. And I've had caviar before, maybe a spoonful at a wedding, but this was a whole tin full of caviar, and it came with some eggs, some bread, and some other condiments as well. Between the champagne, the foie gras, and the caviar, I knew that this was going to continue to be a really good flight. The next course was a lobster salad. I definitely didn't expect to eat lobster on this flight. And so, being from Boston, it was nice to have some lobster on the flight to remember Boston. The portion of the lobster was really big, and they didn't skimp on the lobster at all. The next course, after the salad, was the main course. You could choose from a Western meal or a Chinese meal, and I chose the Chinese meal. The Chinese meal consisted of some fish and some rice. In addition to that, there was a basket of bread, and instead of the flight attendant bringing around a basket of bread so that you could choose out of, you had your own basket of bread with pretty much as many rolls as you wanted to eat. I was really surprised that there was some garlic bread inside the basket of bread, and that really made my day, just because I didn't expect it. After that portion of the meal, I had some soup, which was an Asian soup. The meal kept going on, so I think I ate for probably about 4 hours on this flight. And so the next course was some cheese and crackers, and I chose the brie. And then finally, for dessert, they had my absolute favorite Asian dessert, which is red bean soup. And so the fact that they had red bean soup on this flight, which is my favorite Chinese dessert that's popular in Hong Kong, really made my day. After the meal, I chose to go to bed. So on Cathay Pacific, you can get some turn-down service, which means that the flight attendant will put some padding on the seat that has been made flat, and then also put some blankets on it. This makes the seat really comfortable. I slept for 6 hours, and I don't think I woke up during the entire 6 hours. It was a really good rest. So after the 6 hours of sleep, I woke up and I wanted some snacks. There were about 5 things on the snack menu, and I really wanted to eat them all, but I knew that I wasn't hungry enough to do it. So I chose the lobster roll and the ice cream. Those were a really interesting combination for me because the lobster roll was more lobster on the plane, and so I didn't expect yet another course of lobster. And then I've always really liked eating ice cream on the airplane. And so, of course, I chose that. As I was eating, I decided to try the entertainment system on the plane, and I didn't really see a lot in the English movies, so I decided to watch a Chinese movie. The first class bathroom was a standard bathroom. There were some nice soaps in the bathroom, and the other thing that I noticed is that there were real towels in the bathroom instead of just paper towels. The real paper towels were a nice touch just to make it a little bit more first class. I let the purser know that I was going to be studying Chinese in Taiwan, and that this was a really important flight for me because I'd be moving to Asia for an extended period of time. The purser was nice enough to find a flight attendant that was from Taiwan, and after I talked to the flight attendant, she wrote me a list of suggestions of different things that I could do into Taiwan. This was a really nice gesture on the part of the flight attendants. The other thing that I think is really interesting about the flight attendants is that they're multinational. So one of the flight attendants was from the Philippines, the purser was from Japan, and then of course there's some flight attendants from Hong Kong as well. I've been talking about food a lot, and I still haven't talked about breakfast on the flight. I chose the Asian option for breakfast, and that was dim sum. And I thought there weren't going to be any more surprises on this flight, but yet there was one more surprise. And that surprise was that they had my favorite dim sum with the breakfast, and that is sticky rice with the lotus leaf. I was really surprised by this, and it was truly amazing that they could surprise me again on this flight. Soon after breakfast, the flight was over and we arrived in Hong Kong. I scheduled a 12-hour layover in Hong Kong so that I could go into the city and take a look and walk around a little bit. Originally, I wanted to schedule an overnight in Hong Kong, but that wasn't possible. The reason why it wasn't possible is because I booked my flight with miles, and you can only have up to a 24-hour layover. Because my flight landed at 6:30 a.m., there were no flights outbound the next day before 6:30 a.m. In the end, it worked out really well just having one day in Hong Kong, and I enjoyed my day. So in my next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about my Dragon Air flight, Dragon Air is also owned by Cathay Pacific. It was a 3-hour flight from Hong Kong to Beijing. And even though it was only a 3-hour flight, it's still different than a 3-hour domestic flight in the US. So I'd like to show you some of that.